Josh Kronfeld has urged rugby supporters not to judge Dave Rennie simply by whether the All Blacks win their upcoming 4-test series against the Springboks, arguing that the new New Zealand head coach should be given time to build towards the 2027 Rugby World Cup. The former All Blacks open-side flanker believes the series represents an extremely difficult challenge for Rennie, particularly because the coach inherited the job after Scott Robertson's departure and has been given a relatively short period to develop a new identity before the global tournament in Australia. With the Springboks entering the rivalry as back-to-back Rugby World Cup champions and one of the most formidable teams in international rugby, Kronfeld believes the focus should be on progress, competitiveness, and the way the All Blacks perform rather than simply counting victories and defeats. The 4-test series is expected to be one of the most demanding assignments of Rennie's early tenure, with 3 matches taking place in South Africa and the final encounter being played on neutral territory in the United States. That schedule alone demonstrates the scale of the challenge facing New Zealand. But Kronfeld believes there is a bigger picture that supporters need to consider. The ultimate objective is not necessarily to win every test immediately. Instead, it is to build a team capable of challenging for the Rugby World Cup in 2027. Rennie has effectively been handed the responsibility of rebuilding the All Blacks while operating under an enormous historical expectation. New Zealand are expected to win whenever they step onto a rugby field, and anything less can quickly be portrayed as failure. But Kronfeld believes that mindset could be unfair to a coach who has taken over at a difficult moment and has limited time to create something sustainable. The former All Black star explained that he is more interested in how the team presents itself, how the matches develop, and whether New Zealand can demonstrate meaningful improvement. A victory would obviously be welcome, but according to Kronfeld, it should be viewed as an additional reward rather than the only measure of success. His argument is particularly relevant because Rennie has inherited a team that has been searching for consistency and attacking fluency since the 2023 Rugby World Cup. The previous coaching era under Scott Robertson failed to establish the trajectory that New Zealand rugby wanted, eventually leading to a major change before the next World Cup. Now Rennie has approximately 2 years to develop a pathway, identify his best combinations, establish his tactical identity, and create a squad capable of competing for the game's biggest prize. That is an enormous task, especially because the coach cannot simply press a reset button and expect immediate results. Players need time to understand systems, combinations need to develop through competitive matches, and younger members of the squad need exposure to the pressure of test rugby. Kronfeld believes that process is already moving in the right direction. The All Blacks have shown promising signs during the Southern Hemisphere leg of the Nations Championship, and there is a growing sense of optimism around the team. Their attacking game has looked more confident, their skill levels have improved, and there are signs that Rennie is beginning to establish the identity he wants. But the biggest examination is now approaching because the Springboks represent a completely different level of challenge. South Africa are not simply another international opponent. They are the reigning world champions, they have extraordinary depth across almost every position, and they have developed a mentality under Rassie Erasmus that allows them to win matches in multiple ways. They can dominate physically, control territory through tactical kicking, attack through their forwards, unleash dangerous backs, and use their replacements to maintain pressure deep into matches. That makes the upcoming series a brutal examination for the developing All Blacks. Kronfeld understands that reality, which is why he is not demanding a series victory from Rennie. Instead, he wants to see the All Blacks remain competitive and avoid the kind of heavy defeats that could damage confidence. His ideal scenario is a series in which the matches remain close, both teams are scoring points, both defenses are being tested, and the outcome is still uncertain deep into the final minutes. For Kronfeld, that would represent meaningful progress. A narrow defeat against the world champions could provide more useful information than a comfortable victory against a weaker opponent. The All Blacks need to learn how to perform under pressure, how to remain composed when the Springboks attack relentlessly, and how to respond when momentum turns against them. Those lessons could become invaluable when New Zealand eventually reaches the Rugby World Cup in Australia. The context surrounding Rennie's appointment is therefore critical. According to Kronfeld, New Zealand rugby effectively changed direction by ending Robertson's tenure and bringing in Rennie, leaving the new coach with roughly 2 years to create a team capable of challenging for the World Cup. That means every test between now and 2027 should be viewed as part of a larger development process. Selection decisions, tactical experiments, injuries, player combinations, and even defeats can all contribute to the final product. The danger is that external pressure could force Rennie into short-term decisions designed only to win individual matches instead of building a sustainable team. Kronfeld appears to be warning against exactly that approach. The former All Blacks flanker wants to see the team discover what he calls its mojo, that unique identity and confidence that allows players to understand exactly who they are as a team. Finding that identity is arguably the most important task facing Rennie. The All Blacks have historically been associated with speed, skill, decision-making, physicality, and attacking ambition, but modern rugby requires much more than simply reproducing those traditional characteristics. Rennie must create a system that can survive the defensive pressure of teams such as the Springboks, Ireland, France, and Argentina, while also ensuring that his players have enough freedom to express their individual talents. The upcoming series, therefore, offers a perfect opportunity to measure progress. The real test for Dave Rennie is not whether the All Blacks can somehow survive one difficult series against the Springboks, but whether he can use these matches to build a team that is genuinely ready to challenge for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. That is why Josh Kronfeld's comments deserve serious attention. The former New Zealand flanker understands the enormous expectations surrounding the All Blacks, but he also recognizes that Rennie has inherited a complicated situation and cannot instantly transform the team into a finished World Cup winning side. The 4-test series against South Africa is therefore better viewed as one major stage in a much longer rebuilding process. And already, there are signs that Rennie is learning a great deal about his players. The All Blacks have been using their South African tour to rotate a large squad, and the competition for test positions has become increasingly intense after their emphatic 54-0 victory over the Sharks. Rennie was particularly pleased with the improvements in discipline, tactical kicking, game management, and defensive organization, while the A-try performance also created greater competition for places ahead of the Springboks tests. That competition could be one of Rennie's greatest advantages. Instead of entering the series with every position already decided, the All Blacks have players fighting to prove they belong in the starting 15. That means every training session and every provincial match matters. The upcoming meeting with the Bulls could also influence selection, with reports suggesting that performances in Pretoria can still change the thinking around the test team. This is exactly the kind of environment Rennie needs if he is serious about building a squad capable of winning the World Cup. A coach needs competition, but he also needs players who understand that selection is earned through performance rather than reputation. That could be particularly important for experienced names such as Beauden Barrett, Damian McKenzie, Jordy Barrett, and the returning Richie Mo'unga, because Rennie now has several different options when designing his backline. The return of Mo'unga is especially fascinating. The 56 cap All Blacks fly half has returned to the squad after being absent since the 2023 Rugby World Cup final, replacing injured centre Billy Proctor. Rennie has stressed that Mo'unga still needs to integrate into the team systems, but his experience and playmaking ability could provide another dimension to an attack that the new coach wants to develop. And this is where the series against the Springboks becomes so important. Rennie can experiment against provincial opposition, but there is nowhere to hide against South Africa. The Springboks will test the All Blacks in almost every area of the game. They will attack the set piece, challenge the breakdown, apply pressure through their kicking game, and relentlessly test the defensive line. For young New Zealand players, this will be an education unlike anything they have experienced before. The question is whether they can absorb that pressure without losing their attacking instincts. That could be the central challenge for Rennie. He wants the All Blacks to play with ambition, but ambition without control can become recklessness. Against the Springboks, one poor pass, one unnecessary offload, or one inaccurate kick can completely change momentum. Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff understand how to punish mistakes, and South Africa have repeatedly demonstrated that they can turn pressure into points.